and why enzyme activities in the body should be regulated. We have many reasons for that. The most important one is to coordinate the different metabolic processes, and it is also important for homeostasis. Now, you all are very well aware of this term and the meanings of this. Homeostasis means to maintain the internal environment of the organism constant despite changes in the external environment, and allowing or enable cell to respond in controlled way to the changes in the both internal and external conditions. Now, there are various means and methods are existing in the body for regulation of enzyme activity. And among these mechanisms, we have allosteric enzymes, product inhibition, compartmentation, covalent modification, zymogens, and control of rates of enzyme synthesis and degradation. Now, in the previous slide, I just mentioned the mechanisms through which the enzyme activities are regulated in the body. And few of these mechanisms actually affect enzyme catalytic activity by causing alteration in its structure. You are very well aware that most of the enzymes, they are protein nature. So any alteration in its structure will definitely affect its substrate binding affinity. So among these mechanisms which can affect the enzyme substrate binding affinity are allosteric enzyme regulation, proteolytic activation of enzyme which is called as zymogens, reversible covalent modification, and regulation by isoenzymes. Now, if you recall, in the introductory lecture of enzymes, I told you about the allosteric enzymes. Allosteric enzymes are regulatory enzymes, and they are called allosteric enzyme because they have a site other than the substrate binding site for some ligands or some molecules. So this slide shows you the various properties of the allosteric enzyme. Allosteric enzyme have one or more allosteric site. Allosteric sites are, I will again repeat, the site other than the substrate binding site. And allosteric sites are binding site distinct from the enzyme active site or substrate binding site. And molecules that bind to these allosteric sites are called effector or modulators. Now, what are the properties of the allosteric enzyme? Allosteric enzyme, as we have just discussed, they have a site other than the substrate binding site where effector or modulator can bind. These effector or modulator can be called as positive or negative because once they increase the activity of an allosteric enzyme, they are called activators, and the site where they bind, it is called activator site. But when a ligand binds and alter the conformation of the allosteric enzyme so that the substrate cannot bind to it, then it is called negative effector or modulator, and that site is called negative site, and that will inhibit the enzyme activity. So binding of modulators or effectors can increase or decrease the activity of allosteric enzyme by causing alteration in its structure. Now, binding of to these allosteric sites is called cooperative binding. An allosteric enzyme, they displayed sigmoidal type of curve when initial velocity is plotted versus substrate concentration. Now, Dr. Jamil has already delivered a lecture on enzyme kinetics, and I'm sure that you people are very much familiar with these terminologies: initial velocity and the substrate concentration. Now, this diagram is of a model of an allosteric enzyme, and you can see the enzyme has been shown in two states, T for taut and R for relaxed state. Taut state means it is stretched, it is stiff, and the relaxed state is that when it is ready to bind with the activator or substrate. So you can see here that whenever enzyme is in the relaxed state, there are two possibilities. That the first, the activator will bind to an enzyme and then it will promote the substrate binding, or it is possible that the first substrate bind and then activator bind to this enzyme. So activators are the molecules, are the ligands, are the which increases the activity of an allosteric enzyme, and we will just discuss these. I will give you the examples of these activators and inhibitors. Whereas in the taut or stretch of fixed state, you can see only the inhibitor can bind to an enzyme, and there is a conformational change, so substrate will not be able to bind to this allosteric molecule. This is another picture of this allosteric enzyme, and you can see that when an inhibitor binds to an allosteric site, it brings a conformational change, and you can see the substrate is unable to bind to enzyme. This is another version of the allosteric enzyme. I have repeated a number of times that allosteric enzymes, they are regulatory enzymes. They regulate the metabolic pathways, or they catalyze a step which is the regulatory step of a metabolic pathway. So whenever you can see there is an enzyme, it has a catalytic site where the substrate binds and converts into product, and it has also as a regulatory site. So when a negative factor binds to an enzyme, you can see a conformational change in the structure of the enzyme, and you can see the substrate is unable to bind to an enzyme, and by this way the enzyme becomes inactive or its activity is inhibited. Another mode of regulation of enzyme activity is called zymogen activation. First of all, zymogens. What are zymogens? Zymogens are inactive enzyme, or they are unused enzyme. And mostly the digestive enzyme, they are produced in the body as zymogens. The reason is to prevent the enzyme from digesting proteins in the cells in which they are synthesized. It is possible that if they have been there in the active form, they will start auto digestion of their own proteins and own cell contents. So whenever there is a need, these zymogens are converted into active enzymes. So far, what are zymogens? They are inactive enzyme. Mostly digestive enzyme, they are produced in an active form, and they are being then, according to the requirement of the cell, they are being activated. Now this process of conversion of zymogens into an active form is called irreversible covalent modification. Irreversible means that this process cannot be reversed, and as a result of breakage of some covalent bond, this zymogen are being converted into active forms. Like pepsinogen is a protein, and it is converted into pepsin. So a chain of amino acid is being removed by breakage of the peptide bond. Similarly, trypsinogen is converted into trypsin. So pepsinogen and trypsinogen, they are zymogens, and their active form is pepsin and trypsin. So I will give you examples how these zymogens are being converted into active form. Now this slide shows you how pepsinogen is converted into pepsin. Now, as far as the digestion of protein is concerned, the protein digestion starts in the stomach and it completes in the small intestine. Stomach has two types of cells which are called parietal cells, which secrete HCl, and this HCl is responsible for the acidic pH of the stomach, which is 2. And it is also a requirement for the conversion of HCl production is a requirement for conversion of pepsinogen into pepsin. It also kills intestinal bacteria, and provide medium for the enzymes present in the stomach. And there's another type of cell which are called chief cells. Chief cells produce pepsinogen. Pepsinogen are inactive enzyme. So this pepsinogen, if you can see here, it is a larger polypeptide chain, and in the presence of HCl, a single polypeptide chain or some amino acid residues are being removed from pepsinogen. So pepsin is now converted into pepsin, that is active enzyme, and this pepsin will act on dietary protein. As I told you earlier, the protein digestion starts in the stomach, and pepsin can convert this dietary proteins into oligopeptides, into tetrapeptides, dipeptides. So this is how, on the requirement of the cell, the pepsinogen is converted into pepsin. This slide also shows you the conversion of enzyme zymogen, trypsinogen, that is being released by the pancreas into the duodenum. And there are some intestinal enzymes are there which are called enteropeptidase. As the name is suggesting, entero means they are being produced by intestinal cells and they act on protein. Enteropeptidase synthesized by intestine, act on protein and break the peptide bond. So trypsinogen, like pepsinogen, is larger molecule, and when enteropeptidase act on trypsinogen, it cleaves a single polypeptide chain from trypsinogen. So trypsinogen is converted into trypsin. Trypsin is active enzyme and gin is inactive enzyme. This activated trypsin then will activate other enzymes which are being released by the pancreas, like chymotrypsinogen and other proenzymes. Proenzymes also inactive enzymes. Some hormones are also being produced as proenzymes like insulin. So trypsin then will act on chymotrypsinogen and other proenzymes and convert them into chymotrypsin and other active enzymes. Now this slide shows you various zymogens which are inactive enzyme, how they are being activated and what is their active form. So proelastase activator is trypsin, and trypsin will convert this proelastase into elastase. Trypsinogen is an inactive form, and it's very interesting fact that trypsin, which is being synthesized from trypsinogen, is an itself activator of its own enzyme and it converts it into trypsin. Then chymotrypsinogen A is being activated by trypsin and chymotrypsin, and the active form is chymotrypsin. We know very well that pepsinogen, which is being produced by the chief cells, pH is required, acidic pH is required in the stomach, and pepsin itself is an activator. So pepsinogen is converted into pepsin. And procarboxypeptidase. Carboxypeptidase are those enzymes which break the peptide bond from the carboxyl end of a protein. So activator is trypsin, and procarboxypeptidases are converted into carboxypeptidase A and carboxypeptidase B. So these are the few examples of zymogens, their activators and their active forms, and you can see they all are digestive enzymes. And the nature has produced zymogens or inactive enzyme just to prevent the auto digestion of the cellular proteins by its own enzymes. Now, if you recall, when we discussed the structure of cell, that the cytoplasm of the cell is being compartmentalized into various organelles, and every organelle has got its specific functions, like endoplasmic reticulum synthesizes lipids, rough endoplasmic reticulum has a job of protein synthesis, mitochondria synthesizes ATP. So similarly, this compartmentation is an important component of metabolic regulation. And the purpose of this compartmentation is to concentrate enzymes and the metabolites within the organelles. What are metabolites? Metabolites are the intermediates of an metabolic pathway on which the enzyme acts. So concentrate them or within the organelles, the substrate and the enzyme, and separate them from each other. So this is a very important mean of controlling reaction. Compartmentation optimizes the course of chemical reaction. Now here we see the advantages of the compartmentation. Compartmentation ensures metabolic efficiency and it simplifies enzymatic regulation. As a result of compartmentation, enzyme remains confined to a particular area of the cell or the body, which makes it exclusive. For example, fatty acid synthesis takes place in the cytosol, whereas the fatty acid oxidation takes place in the mitochondria. If this is not been compartmentalization, what could have been done? That on one way the fatty acid being synthesized, on the other way the fatty acids are being oxidized. So just to prevent futile cycle, the compartmentation separates enzymes and their substrate, and according to the need of the body, those pathways are then activated whenever there is a requirement. Now this is a very good slide which is showing you the various compartments or organelles. As I told you earlier, that cytoplasm is being compartmentalized into various organelles by means of the lipid bilayer or plasma membranes. And here you can see that various organelles and the type of the enzyme they contain and the type of metabolic pathways they regulate. You can see in cytoplasm we can have aminotransferases, we have peptidases, glycolysis is a purely a cytosolic process, and HMP shunt, which is another pathway of the carbohydrate metabolism. So enzymes of the glycolysis and that of the HMP shunt, they are present only in cytoplasm, not in the mitochondria. Then in the mitochondria we can see that oxidation of the fatty acids takes place. TCA cycle or Krebs cycle also takes place. The first two steps of the urea cycle and the electron transport chain, which is responsible for conversion of reduced coenzyme in the form of ATP. That is purely a mitochondrial process. Then in the nucleus, we are very well aware that nucleus is the storage house for the genetic material and genetic information, and the biosynthesis of the DNA and RNA takes place in the nucleus. Endoplasmic reticulum is mainly responsible for, when we say endoplasmic reticulum, it means we are talking about the simple endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So, and we know that rough endoplasmic reticulum is mainly concerned with protein synthesis, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum is mainly concerned with the synthesis of the lipids, triacylglycerol, and phospholipid synthesis. Then we have another organelle, lysosomes. Lysosomes are responsible for the intracellular digestion. And we have lysosomal enzymes in the lysosomes like phosphatases, phospholipases, hydrolases, and proteases. Now, since you have been through classification of enzymes, so now you are very well aware of these enzymes. Phosphatases, they remove phosphate from the substrate. Phospholipases are mainly act on the phospholipids. Hydrolases are the class of enzyme which add water and break the covalent bond, and proteases are mainly act on proteins. Then as far as the Golgi apparatus is concerned, glucose 6-phosphatase, glucosyl and galactosyl transferase enzymes. Now you are very well aware that Golgi apparatus is mainly concerned with the modification of the synthesized proteins and lipids and for their final packaging. So these are all enzymes which are present in the Golgi apparatus for this purpose. And peroxisomes are mainly responsible for the oxidation of the long chain fatty acids or peroxisomal oxidation of the amino acids. So the type of enzymes which are present in the peroxisomes are catalases, urea oxidase, and amino acid oxidase. So here this is a very clear picture that you can see various compartments with very different enzymes and different type of metabolic pathways which are taking place in those compartments. This is a very good example. The rounded structure you can see is a mitochondria, and we have the cytosol. So in the cytosol, fatty acid synthesis takes place. We have just discussed in previous slide that fatty acid synthesis is a cytosolic process, and acetyl-CoA is a substrate for fatty acid synthesis. When acetyl-CoA convert into malonyl-CoA, this intermediate or metabolite inhibit an enzyme that is called CPT1, carnitine palmitoyl transferase 1 enzyme. So on one hand, it is inhibiting fatty acid oxidation because this enzyme, carnitine palmitoyl transferase 1, is responsible for conversion of fatty acid into the mitochondria so that it should be oxidized. So since the fatty acid synthesis is required, so fatty acid oxidation should be inhibited. So malonyl-CoA, on one hand, it inhibits the enzyme carnitine palmitoyl transferase so that the fatty acid oxidation should be blocked. Transfer of fatty acids from the cytosol into mitochondria cannot take place. So oxidation of fatty acids is blocked, and you can see the smooth pathway is going on, so that we can get palmitate and then active form of the palmitate. So compartmentation, a best example, the cytosolic process is fatty acid synthesis is a cytosolic process, and fatty acid oxidation is a mitochondrial process. Another mode or mean of regulation of enzymic activity is covalent modification. Covalent modification is actually addition or removal of a group to an enzyme by forming or cleaving the covalent bond. See, the word is used, covalent modification. Either a covalent bond is formed or covalent bond is broken down, a group is added or it's removed. Now, as far as this covalent modification is concerned, the examples are phosphorylation, means addition of phosphate group into the enzyme; dephosphorylation, that is the removal of the phosphate group; acetylation means addition of the fatty acid; or deacetylation means removal of a fatty acid; methylation, and similarly demethylation, addition or removal of the methyl groups. So whenever these groups are added or removed from an enzyme, either a covalent bond is formed or covalent bond is being cleaved. In humans and in mammals, phosphorylation and dephosphorylation is a very important mode of this activation or deactivation of enzyme. As far as phosphorylation is concerned, I have told you earlier in my last lecture that kinases, which are a class of transferases, they add phosphate into the substrate. That substrate can be an enzyme. And phosphoprotein phosphatases, they are the enzyme which remove phosphate from a substrate. So kinases and phosphoprotein phosphatases, they are responsible for phosphorylation and dephosphorylation. And remember, whenever phosphate group is added to a substrate or to an enzyme, ATP is the donor. Now there is an important enzyme that is called glycogen synthase. As the name is suggesting, this enzyme is responsible for glycogen synthesis. When phosphate is added to the glycogen synthase, this enzyme becomes inactive. And when it becomes inactive, it means glycogen synthesis is blocked. Simultaneously, glycogen phosphorylase, which is an enzyme for glycogenolysis, a opposite reaction to the glycogen synthesis, that is glycogenolysis, breakdown of glycogen. So it is not possible that on one hand glycogen synthesis takes place and on the other hand glycogenolysis takes place. So what happens, the kinases, I will in the next slide I will explain you this mechanism. Now this slide is a very good example of this activation of glycogen phosphorylase and inactivation of glycogen synthase by covalent modification. इसको कहते हैं एक तीर से दो शिकार. Kindly try to understand that we have two enzymes. One is glycogen phosphorylase. Glycogen phosphorylase is responsible for breakdown of glycogen. On the other hand, we have enzyme glycogen synthase, जो कि responsible है glycogen synthesis का. The two totally opposite reaction, glycogen breakdown and glycogen synthesis. Glycogen synthase responsible for glycogen synthesis and glycogen phosphorylase responsible for breakdown of glycogen. Now what happens, we have an enzyme जिसको हम कहते हैं protein kinase. Kinases, I have repeated a number of times, they add phosphate into a substrate. अब जैसे मैंने आपसे कहा कि एक तीर से दो शिकार, this protein kinase will utilize ATP and simultaneously it will add phosphate into the glycogen phosphorylase and also add phosphate into the glycogen synthase. जब ये फॉस्फेट ऐड करेगा ग्लाइकोजन फॉस्फोराइलेज में तो ग्लाइकोजन फॉस्फोराइलेज एक्टिव हो गया, लेकिन जब ये ग्लाइकोजन सिंथेज में फॉस्फेट ऐड करा है तो ग्लाइकोजन सिंथेज इनएक्टिव हो गया. तो इसका मतलब है कि एक एंजाइम एक्टिव है, दूसरा इनएक्टिव है. और जो which I have told you earlier, just this purpose of this enzyme regulation is also to prevent futile cycle. ये दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल कि एक चीज सिंथेसाइज हो रही हो और साइमल्टेनियसली दूसरी तरफ टूट रही हो. सो व्हेन ग्लाइकोजन फॉस्फोराइलेज इज एक्टिव, ग्लाइकोजन सिंथेसिस विल नॉट टेक प्लेस. फिर क्या होगा, आपका जब फॉस्फेट निकल जाएगा, फॉस्फेट, हु विल रिमूव फॉस्फेट, फॉस्फोप्रोटीन फॉस्फेटेज, ठीक है, एंड दैट विल रिमूव फॉस्फेट फ्रॉम बोथ द एंजाइम. जब वो ग्लाइकोजन फॉस्फोराइलेज से फॉस्फेट निकालेगा तो इट विल बिकम इनएक्टिव, and the glycogen synthase when dephosphorylated will become glycogen synthase will become active. So now glycogenolysis will be blocked and glycogen synthesis will be started. So in the well-fed state, glycogen synthase is activated, and between meals or in the fasting state, glycogen phosphorylase is activated. Remember, between meals, our blood glucose level is maintained by glycogenolysis. That is the breakdown of liver glycogen, not muscle glycogen, liver glycogen. And the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase is responsible for glycogenolysis between meals and in prolonged starvation and fasting. In the previous slides, I just discussed this mode of covalent modification and gave you the examples of phosphorylation and dephosphorylation, that how phosphorylation will activate or deactivate enzyme. These are the other modes of this covalent modification, that when adenyl group is added to an enzyme, it can be activated. Similarly, addition of uridine, ADP ribose, and methylation of enzyme are another mode of covalent modification and enzyme activation. Now, so far the methods or means we have discussed for regulation of enzyme activity were allosteric enzymes, then zymogens, compartmentation, and covalent modification. The fifth one is the product inhibition. Now, you are very well aware that whenever substrate bind to the catalytic site or substrate binding site, it ultimately converts into product. And in a metabolic pathway, there are various intermediates are formed, like in glycolysis, the glucose breakdown starts and it ends to the pyruvate. So the end product of the aerobic glycolysis is pyruvate. The substrate is glucose, product is pyruvate. Now what happens when a product is produced? You can see this is a metabolic pathway, and there is a beginning of this metabolic pathways, and various enzymes are catalyzing the this intermediate steps, and ultimately we reach to the product. When the product is produced in sufficient amount, that product will send signals or will inhibit the activity of, in this case it is enzyme number 1. It will inhibit this enzyme. Now, it is possible that this enzyme number 1 is an allosteric enzyme, and product will go and bind to the negative or activator side or on the inhibitory side. When an enzyme of a metabolic pathway, the regulatory enzyme of a metabolic pathway is the first enzyme, and if it is catalyzing a irreversible reaction, it is called committed step. So in this reaction, you can see the product is inhibiting the activity of the regulatory enzyme of that pathway, and by this way it is blocking, it is regulating the activity of this pathway. This is called feedback inhibition, or it is also been called as product inhibition. Why product inhibition? Because product is acting as an inhibitory factor or modulator. Now this slide shows you the advantages of these feedback inhibition or product inhibition. As I told you earlier, that product inhibition occurs when the product is being produced in a sufficient amount and it sends signals to the regulatory enzyme of the pathway. And the purpose of this feedback inhibition is to just slow down the production of the product, number 1, to conserve energy, and to keep a state of homeostasis within the cell. If you recall, in the beginning I gave you the justification why the enzyme activity should be regulated. It is to coordinate the various metabolic pathways and to maintain the state of homeostasis within the cell. So this feedback inhibition, it conserves energy, it prevents the piling up of the product, and that's why it slows down that pathway, and it maintains the state of homeostasis within the cell. Now this is a very good example of the feedback inhibition or product inhibition. You have already been through this pathway, that is the heme synthesis pathway, and you are very well aware that the initial substrate for heme synthesis are glycine and succinyl CoA. And the regulatory enzyme of this pathway, you are all very much familiar, is ALA synthase. Now you can see ALA synthase is catalyzing a reaction which is showing you a unidirectional arrow. It means it is an irreversible reaction. The first step of a pathway and the irreversible step. If the first step of pathway is a ALA synthase is a regulatory enzyme. It is catalyzing the regulatory step of a pathway and it is catalyzing an irreversible reaction. So this step, which is being catalyzed by ALA synthase, is called committed step. Now you can see the ultimate product is heme, and heme is then inhibiting the ALA synthase. So again I will say ALA synthase may be an allosteric enzyme, so that the heme goes and bind to the inhibitory site of this ALA synthase and inhibit the further activity of the ALA synthase. So heme is a product and it is inhibiting committed step of an enzyme. What is committed step? The first step of an pathway, and which is a irreversible step, that is a committed step. This is again a very good example of this product inhibition or feedback inhibition. As I told you, acetyl CoA is a substrate for fatty acid synthesis, but acetyl CoA is also a substrate for cholesterol synthesis. It is also a substrate for ketone body synthesis when a person is in a state of prolonged starvation or fasting. So this acetyl CoA ultimately, when produce cholesterol, the increased production of cholesterol will send signals to the HMG CoA reductase, which is being shown with the red color. So HMG CoA reductase is a rate limiting enzyme of the cholesterol synthesis pathway. Remember, product always will inhibit the activity of regulatory enzyme or that step which is being catalyzed by rate limiting enzyme. There's a difference between committed step and the rate limiting step. Committed step हमेशा पहला step और जो irreversible step होगा वो committed step होगा. लेकिन अगर regulatory step which is number 3 or number 4, then it is called only the regulatory enzyme. So HMG CoA reductase is the regulatory enzyme of the cholesterol synthesis pathway, and the product cholesterol will inhibit the activity of this enzyme, and this is a very good mean of a competitive inhibitors. Cholesterol lowering drugs जो हैं, they the drugs which are being used to decrease the levels of cholesterol or which are being used for the treatment of hypercholesterolemia, what they do, they go and they bind to an HMG CoA reductase and they inhibit the activity of HMG CoA reductase. तो क्या होगा, जब HMG CoA reductase की activity inhibit हो गई, the product cholesterol will not form. So most of the cholesterol lowering drugs, and especially the class of drug which is called statins, myostatin, levastatin, they are cholesterol lowering drugs and they are inhibitors of HMG CoA reductase. You have gone through the enzyme inhibitors and you know the enzyme inhibitors can be of competitive, non-competitive and uncompetitive. So drugs, cholesterol lowering drugs are the competitive inhibitors of HMG CoA reductase. And this is the last mode or mechanism of control of enzyme activity. If you recall, the last one was the control of rate of synthesis and degradation of enzymes. Enzymes, almost all enzymes are protein nature. And you know that gene code for proteins. So the synthesis of enzymes like that of all proteins is regulated by genes. Now, the genetic control strategy is especially useful for enzymes needed only at certain stages of development. And again, there are mechanisms. Whether the enzyme synthesis being increased or decreased, again, we have a regulatory molecules which are called hormones. So hormones, they accelerate or they suppress the synthesis of enzyme. Induction and repression. Induction and repression are the two mechanisms or processes which affect the amount of enzyme present within the cell or the body. Induction means increase in the synthesis and repression means when there is a decrease in the synthesis. And those molecules which increases the synthesis, they are called inducers, or those chemicals or molecules or modulators which causes decrease in the enzyme synthesis, they are called repressors. And as I told you in the previous slide that usually these are the hormones. Hormones are the regulatory molecules which according to the requirement of the body either induces or suppresses the synthesis of enzymes of the various metabolic pathways. And for your convenience, I must repeat over here, you have already been through the factors which affect enzyme activity, and among those factors Dr. Jamil must have been told you about the concentration of enzyme. So amount of the enzyme directly controls the rate of an enzyme catalyzed reaction. So this induction and repression, the two mechanisms, they are being regulated via hormones, and hormones, they affect the genes. Genes are the segments of the DNA which code for the particular proteins or enzymes. As I told you earlier that these synthesis or induction and repression, they are being controlled via hormones. Now this is a very good example, that hormone insulin. Insulin is a anabolic hormone and it is released from the pancreas when we are in a state of well-fed state. So hyperglycemia is a stimulus for insulin, and insulin will activate the synthesis of which enzymes? Glucokinase, phosphofructokinase, pyruvate kinase. Now these all are enzymes of glycolysis, that is the breakdown of glucose. The major function of insulin is to maintain blood glucose. What it do when there is an increased blood glucose level, that is called hyperglycemia, insulin is released, and insulin maintains the blood glucose level by causing the entry of that blood glucose into the cell. जब सेल के अंदर ग्लूकोज चला जाएगा, आपका blood glucose level normal हो गया. And another thing, what it will do, it will activate glycolysis. Glycolysis is mean of providing energy to that individual cell by utilizing glucose. So these insulin activate the synthesis of these enzymes of the glycolysis pathway, and simultaneously what it will do, it will prevent gluconeogenesis. जब आपके पास ग्लूकोस है, सेल के अंदर चला गया, इंसुलिन उसकी यूटिलाइजेशन बढ़ा रहा है, तो ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस की कोई जरूरत नहीं रहती. ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस इज द सिंथेसिस ऑफ ग्लूकोज फ्रॉम नॉन कार्बोहाइड्रेट सोर्सेज, फ्रॉम प्रोटीन्स एंड फ्रॉम लिपिड्स. तो जब आपके पास ग्लूकोज कार्बोहाइड्रेट सोर्स से आ रहा है, तो देयर इज नो नीड फॉर ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस. तो व्हाट इट विल डू, इट विल suppress, repress, or it will inhibit the synthesis of pyruvate carboxylase, phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase, and glucose 6-phosphatase. These are all enzymes of the gluconeogenesis pathway. So while going through these various modes of regulation of enzyme activity, we have concluded that these various means of this enzyme activity includes, number one, the catalytic activity of enzyme and control of enzyme activity. As far as we have discussed earlier, that catalytic activity is regulated by mechanisms like allosteric regulation, covalent modification, and zymogen activation. If you recall, अगर आप दोबारा recall करें, these three modes, allosteric regulation, covalent modification, and zymogen activation, brings a change in the structure of the enzyme protein, and by this way either the enzyme is activated or it is deactivated. And these different methods of regulation ensures survival of the cell and its proper functioning. Any dysfunction in the enzyme regulation pathway can lead to pathological consequences, and we will discuss these in the second year when we'll go through the individual pathways like glycolysis or amino acid catabolism. Then along with every enzyme pathway, we'll discuss their pathological consequences also.